Veracruz is richer because it's long state that it goes along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. It's diverse from north to south. We like a lot seafood. We eat with corn tortillas. We prefer black beans instead of pinto beans. Black beans is our mainstream type of beans. We like a lot of stews, very simple stews. But if you go to Tabasco, it's a completely different world of gastronomy. They use other spices. They like to add, for example, allspice to some dishes, and they have local, since it's a very tropical kind of jungle like kind of weather, they have so many herbs that are original from that area, and they like to use those herbs that usually are leaves of plants like chaya, hoja santa that they call holy leaves, to many of their dishes or their stews.
Behind every amazing flavor is an amazing human who has perfected their craft. Welcome to Flavors Unknown, a behind-the-scenes look at new flavors and the chefs, pastry chefs, and bartenders who create them, with your host, Emmanuel.
This new episode of the Flavors Unknown podcast celebrates traditional Mexican cuisine, not done by a restaurant chef nor a private chef, but by a home cook who became well respected in the culinary space with her blog Mexico in My Kitchen, and now well known for her recent book, The Mexican Home Kitchen. Her name is Mely Martinez. Welcome to episode 66 of the Flavors Unknown podcast. I am your host, Emmanuel Laroche. And if you are new to the podcast, I have been in the food industry for more than 20 years, both in Europe and in the US. And every other week, I share true stories, successes, and challenges from renowned culinary leaders and how their culinary heritage shape their creative process. You can find all the episodes on the website flavorsunknown.com, and please subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Mely originally started to write her blog 11 years ago, featuring traditional recipes and Mexican dishes for her son. She wanted to make sure he could find his mom a recipe wherever he was around the planet. If you want to win one of the 3 cookbook, The Mexican Home Kitchen, signed by Mely Martinez, you have until the end of the month of March to go on the Instagram Flavors Unknown and participate to the raffle. Hi, Mely, and welcome to Flavors Unknown.
Hi, I'm so happy to talk to you. I'm so excited that to share about the new book that we have now.
What was the main purpose for you to create that blog, Mexico in My Kitchen, 11 years ago?
Before I have the blog, my idea was to write recipe book. I wanted to write all the recipes that I cook at home regularly for my son because I have only one child. We have recently moved to United States. Was my second time living in the States, and I wanted him to have the recipes that we actually cook at home, because what you will see in restaurants that call themselves Mexican or authentic Mexican have modified the recipes, and they were not too close to what we know traditionally in Mexico. And that was something that I wanted to write. I wanted to have a recipe book. In that time, cooking forums were so popular on internet, and I belonged to several cooking forums. And there was one in Spanish, and then another one was in English. And I used to participate a lot in those ones. Then I met someone that has blog in Mexico. The blog was in Spanish. We started a friendship, and we sent emails back and forth of recipes, just about recipes and picture, or look what I cooked today. And then she sent me the picture and she say, why don't you start a blog? And I told him my husband also told me that. And my English is still to today is not as good. It's not
Oh,
so
I
good.
can understand you very well. So no
Yeah.
worries at
And
all.
that was the part that I was afraid
Uh-huh.
because I wanted to write it in English because my son, even though he's fully bilingual, he preferred to read English. And I was thinking one day he's going to get married and he's gonna find a girl and I don't know if that girl is gonna know Spanish, so I better write it in English.
Okay.
So then my husband say, okay, just make the recipes, take the pictures, and I'm gonna help you checking your grammar, your spelling, and whatever. And then that's when I start writing the book, the blog, and that was something that I started for him. I wanted him because I know the in that time the internet was becoming more and more popular, and I was thinking kids nowadays travel the world, things that we didn't do when we were younger. And you see they take vacations to Europe, to other countries far away, and I want him to find his mom's recipe in any place in the planet he was. Just go to the website and find my recipes. He didn't have to carry a recipe book with him. That was my
That's what
idea
your idea.
then.
So I hope your son, how old is your son now, Millie?
He's 20, 25. He's
25.
20.
So
Mhm.
does he start like cooking with your recipes?
Once in a while.
Once in
It
a
was
while.
once.
Okay.
Well, he's a really good cook.
Okay.
He whatever he cooks, when I see him in the kitchen, I know whatever he's doing, he's gonna be good. But no, he's not too much into cooking like wanted.
Okay.
He's more into eating. He's more
Which
into
is
eating.
good. Which is good.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're talking about eating, and you're talking about restaurants in the Mexican, so-called Mexican restaurant in the US. And I know there's been a lot of improvements, throughout the years, but I'm thinking like 10, 11 years ago when, you were going into so-called Mexican restaurant here in the US, and with the democratization of the Mexican food, that you didn't recognize, the traditional food that you were used to, correct? It was probably like a shock for you.
Yes, I remember the first times we went to a restaurant and we arrived and I saw all the waiters were from Mexico. And then you can see the door through the kitchen. And I was looking and I said, wow, the guy that is cooking is Mexican. So this is gonna be good. I
Yeah,
told my husband,
exactly. Good signs.
this is going to be good. And then when they brought, I remember I ordered some enchiladas and they brought to the table some enchiladas with a red deep color and sauce and yellow cheese melted in top. And I was like, oh my God, what is this? And I told him, I thought it was an authentic Mexican restaurant. I asked the waiter. And then she told me something that makes sense to me then. She told me, you know what? It's because this is what the customers know as Mexican. And then I realized that they have a business to run and they have to cater for the customers that bring the money. Because if they make something maybe real Mexican, maybe they are not going to recognize it and they are not going to like it. That was back then.
Yeah.
Uh,
Did you
and
see? Did you see it's changed like in 10 years?
Yeah, there are some restaurants that are doing a great job and trying to represent the Mexican cuisine very close to what we eat in Mexico. There are some places that do that. I know it's very hard to make something authentic because first you are outside Mexico. And to be authentic, you have to be in Mexico. And when you go to Mexico and you taste the ingredients, you taste the tomatoes, you taste the peppers, they taste completely different. The flavors are enhanced. The tomatoes, the peppers, they are spicy, they are really hot. And so they try to do what they can with the ingredients they have on hand.
Okay. So what was the inspiration like behind like all those recipes that you had on your blog? I think that you have more than 500 recipes, on your blog. So what's the inspiration behind all of those?
Well, the inspiration is the regular housemaker that
Mhm.
is cooking at noon because our main meal is at noon. that is cooking at noon for the children that are traditionally, no, 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 today will come back from the school, for the husband that will come back from work to eat lunch. The meals that you are gonna find in everyday Mexican living, not what you find in a restaurant or in a beach resort or in a cooking class that you are taking in some special place like Oaxaca. No, no, I wanted to have what we actually eat every day. What some dishes you don't not gonna find in, not even in a restaurant in Mexico. Some dishes that are very house homemade meals.
And were you ever tempted to, throughout the years to personalize them and add maybe like a modern twist to those dishes?
What I have been doing lately, not very often, is I know we have changed the way we cook because people is busier now and they want to have the same taste, the same comfort, but they want it faster. So I'm been adapting recipes for the Instapot, for instance. We may be telling people to use certain ingredients to have a shortcut. Like one thing that we use a lot in Mexico, I don't know if people know outside Mexico, we use a lot of chicken bouillon concentrate.
Oh yeah, sure. Chicken
Yeah,
bouillon. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Like the
Instead of
bouillon cubes. Yeah.
exactly, we
Yep.
use that a lot.
Hmm.
People, when I tell people that, some people roll their eyes and say, "How come you will do that? You have to use regular homemade chicken and stuff." But that's something that we have been doing for decades.
Hmm.
Is a chicken bouillon is a staple in our
Yes, it is.
pantry, in
Yeah.
our pot. And I know in some European countries it's the same. Like in Germany, they
In
use
France
it.
too. I mean, we have
Oh
them in
yeah.
France too.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we use it. We use the chicken and the beef
Yeah.
and the beef bouillons to enhance the flavors of many of our dishes. So at the beginning, I didn't want it to add them in my recipes, but nowadays I just put them. This is a staple in Mexican,
Sure.
in everyday Mexican cooking. I'm not talking about gourmet. I'm not talking
Yeah.
about
Not by with a chef, you mean at the
or
restaurant. Yeah.
traditional ancient or pre-Hispanic. No, I'm talking about you go to a house in Mexico right now, regular middle class or lower class, and people will have that ingredient in their house.
Sure.
So that's some of the things that now I am more open to share.
Sure. But I'm sure there's some, traditional recipes that are very difficult to shorten and adapt and so on. When you think about the mole sauce, for instance,
Yes.
it's probably so long in the preparation that there's no way that you can
Yeah.
accelerate that, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no way that you can get shortcut. But let me tell you, talking about mole, there are many pastes sold in the markets and the supermarkets and in Mexico that people use, and then people add certain ingredients to enhance the flavor of those pastes. And my mom is 84 years old, and she's one of those people that will, because she has 8 children, she will use the paste that you go and buy at the supermarket and add other ingredients like roasted tomatoes, roasted onion, garlic, roasted tortilla, and then you blend it in the blender and you change the flavor of the paste and give it a more homey, flavorful taste.
So, what's the profile of the people that are reading your blog?
Mostly Mexicans. Mexican people that live outside of Mexico, Mexican expats, people in Europe, in Japan, Korea, Germany, Russia. I have so many people from that live in other countries that they miss the food back home and that they want to replicate it in where they live. And then the people that had traveled to Mexico that had actually tasted the food in Mexico and see that is very different than what they find in their countries. And then chefs, I have a lot of chefs that want to know about Mexican cuisine. And food is people that is very hardcore foodie and that they like to try food from different countries. That's the kind of people that visit the blog. To me that's a surprise because I never realized that other Mexicans living outside of Mexico will be visiting the blog.
Sure, because they
And
are craving, because they probably want to experience what they are used to. And do you have as well like younger generation? Because I'm thinking about all like the second, the third, the fourth generation, of Mexican, let's say here in the US, for instance, that needs to, we have seen with the younger generation that they want to rediscover, their roots, and they want to and a lot of goes through the, food that they eat and they prepare. So do you have as well a lot of those individuals like using your blog?
yes, that is something that has been happened lately in the last 2 or 3 couple of years. There is something that happened very interesting when previous generation of Mexicans came to live, for example, to the States. They wanted their kids to learn English quickly. They wanted to adapt to the cultures so they will fit in. So those children didn't learn Spanish, many of them, because the parents wanted them to fit in with the new society, the new culture. And so they immerse in a very American way of living. But nowadays, there is a new pride in our culture. People is so proud to have a Mexican heritage. And there are new things that are coming now in the society, like the Hispanic Heritage Month. The people celebrate Dia de los Muertos, the Day of the Dead. The people is celebrating more of our traditions, and people want to learn about our gastronomy. I have several people that have sent emails saying, I am 40 years old. When I was growing up, my mom didn't want me to get close to the kitchen, and I never learned to cook the food that she used to cook. Now she passed away, and I never asked her about the recipes. And now when I see the recipes in your blog, it's like my mom is telling me how to cook. And I have several emails like that. And I didn't realize that. And then when I see the reviews now in Amazon that the people very kindly are leaving about what they see in the book, I think one of the word that I see often is my grandma, my grandma, my
Sure,
grandma.
that's great.
So I think I became the grandma of so many people.
Mely,
So
the
what?
grandma for all the second and third generation of Mexican
Yeah, yes,
in
yes,
America.
yes. Yeah, even the Dallas newspaper, the Dallas newspaper,
Yeah,
Melis became the grandma, and yeah,
that's cute.
because and that is something that I was not aware that there was something missing that people wanted. People wanted to have because there is comfort in the food that we remember from grandma or from our mom.
Of course. Why did you never open like a restaurant then?
Before I start the blog,
Mm-hmm.
I met Diana Kennedy
Oh,
in
wow.
in Washington D.C.
Yeah.
At the Chef Jose Andres restaurant. Oyamel. It's a really good Mexican restaurant. Really good Mexican restaurant. And I think I chat with her like half an hour, and then and I think she saw how passionate I was about the Mexican food, and she asked me, "Why don't you open a restaurant?" And my husband told her, I always tell her the same. Why do we open a restaurant? Because my husband's family came from a family that owned restaurants. And I was like, no, because I have a high respect for chefs. It's a job that requires many hours of work a day, standing in their feet, and it's not, people do not appreciate it. So I don't think I am cut out for that. So that's I know what goes behind, and it's a lot of work. And those chefs, I have a high respect for them because It's a lot of work, it's a lot of passion what they have when they open a restaurant and when they work and the many hours they put into that. But I was like, no, I prefer just to go eat at the restaurant, give a good tip, and never bargain about the price because I know what it goes behind it.
So, how did you select the recipes that went into your recent book, like the Mexican Home Kitchen?
It was not easy
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to add like at least 150, but we have a limited space. They told us we have this many pages and we have to fit in just this many recipes. And we even have to fight a little about some pictures that we wanted to have there because the editorial said there is no room for the picture, and I want the picture. I tried to select the most common recipes for a Mexican everywhere in the country because I wanted people to see something that they can feel familiar with. And also the recipes that are most visited or most requested for my readers. And so that was the criteria I took to select the recipes.
Okay, and they are from different, obviously, region of Mexico, and I would like to discuss a little bit that with you because, I spent a lot of time in Mexico and in traveling, and for me, it's a little bit like the same thing, from coming from France. It's the richness and the variety of regional cooking, in the different states, in Mexico. So you are from Tamaulipas,
Yes.
and this is where you are from, but you have spent a lot of time in different states, like around, I think, the Gulf of Mexico, correct? You've been to
Yes.
Veracruz,
Yeah.
you've been to Puebla, you've been Tabasco, even to Yucatan. So can you tell us a little bit like the difference that exists in Tama? And I know it's very difficult probably to summarize it, but the difference of cuisine between those different regions.
Veracruz and Tamaulipas have more or less the same kind of gastronomy, but Veracruz is richer because it's it's a long state that it goes along the coast of the Gulf of Mexico. It's diverse from north to south, and but we like a lot seafood because we're in the Gulf of Mexico. We like a lot seafood. We eat with corn tortillas. We prefer black beans instead of pinto beans. Black beans is our mainstream uh, type of beans. We like a lot of stews and very simple stews. But if you go to Tabasco, it's a completely different world of gastronomy. They use other spices. They like to add, for example, allspice to some dishes, and they have local. Since it's a very tropical kind of jungle-like kind of weather, they have so many herbs that are original from that area, and they like to use those herbs that usually are leaves of plants like chaya, hoja santa that they call holy leaves to many of their dishes or their stews, and that makes different like we our famous caldo de res, that is our vegetable and beef stew. They in some areas they will use cilantro to flavor it, and other areas will in other part of the country will use mint, but they sometimes use hoja santa, that is holy leaf, and some people even use culantro, that is a leaf that is very long, extremely aromatic. So the herbs and the spices change from the regions. So the dishes are very unique to the area because the ingredients are only found there. You cannot even find in other areas of the country.
And what about Yucatan?
Yucatan I always tell my son, Yucatan is like you go to another country that belongs to Mexico
Okay.
because everything is different. The way they talk, the way they dress, the accent is so peculiar, and the gastronomy is according to what they have, and they are very strict or purist in the way they cook. That's one of the areas where you still find that they have not changed too much the way they cook, the ingredients, the process, the techniques. And I didn't want it to add many recipes from there because the ingredients are not easy to find outside of Mexico. So that's what I just added the frijol con puerco, that is pork with beans, because that's something easy everybody can find, pork and beans.
Can you describe or give us like an idea of like a recipe, maybe from like a typical recipe from your original state, like Tamaulipas?
Yeah, well, there is a recipe that I am very fond of, and that is found almost everywhere in the country, but it's dear to me because it's is something that you find in the small restaurants in my hometown for brunch. It's very popular. That is entomatadas. It's a tortilla that is slightly fried just to make it pliable, and then you stuff, you roll the tortilla, but you fill it with queso fresco and chopped white onion, and then you stuff it with that. You roll it, or you just fold it, and then you bat the tortilla with tomato sauce. The tomato sauce that you cook the tomatoes, and then you cool it with water, you boil them, and then you put them in a blender and you fry that sauce. And you can bat them, or before you fry the tortillas, you can even dip them in the tomato sauce, and then you cover them. It's kind of like an enchilada, but it's tomatoes. And then you top those tortillas with a lot of that queso fresco and chopped white onion. It's a very simple dish. For me, it kind of resemble like a pasta dish because it's tomato, cheese, and instead of pasta, we have tortillas, corn
It's
tortillas.
a corn tortillas. I wanted to ask you, is it corn or
Yeah,
flour? Yeah,
it's corn
corn.
tortillas. Yeah,
Okay.
it's the recipes in the book. It's a very popular brunch in my hometown, and children and adults like it.
So you spent your youth, in Tampico, and then you had a grandmother that had the farm in Veracruz. So was food and cooking already an important part in your life when you were young?
Yeah, because in those times when you're a member of the family that had so many children and you are the older, you have to help in the house. You have to help cooking, you have to have help taking care of your younger siblings. And in the summer, my mom used to send us to the farm with my mom because I just think she got crazy with so many children and she needed a break.
She said, okay,
So,
let's go,
yeah,
let's see your grandmother.
yeah, so she sent us there. For my grandma, we were an extra help because there were also a lot of children in the farm, and the boys would help and with fishing or hunting or going to the but um, I had to help in the kitchen. And one of the things that I used to do in the kitchen is that my job was to help bring in water from the river to drink and grinding the corn. That was my job, grinding the corn, and then helping my brother to take the lunch to the farmers in the field after the lunch was ready. And it was quite, it's interesting because when you are growing up, you see it as a task, and you don't realize it until you are older that it was a school of life, that you learn how to go grab good for the stuff. And even when it's rainy and your grandma tells you you had to go grab the wood or the small twines that is under the trees because those are dry, so we can make a fire for cooking with those ones.
Mhm.
And things like that you don't realize, but it's a teaching, it's a school.
And did she teach you as to make the tortilla?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have. It was kind of like mass production thing because I have other cousins and my aunts and my grandma. And everybody has a job and a station in the kitchen, and I was grinding the corn in the metal corn grinder, and my aunt was the one in charge of passing it through the metate to the stone metate to make it finer, and then she will make the tortillas, and my grandma will be making the main dishes, and my cousin will making the salsas. So everybody has a job in the farm, in the kitchen.
Okay. So, what's your favorite, the most, let's say, your most preferred ingredient to work, for each of the seasons?
Tomatoes, I will be
For
tomatoes.
the summer, I guess.
Well, you know what? One thing that I found, um, there is a book club online that was cooking recipes from the book this last December, and they were talking that they couldn't make the recipe because it's not tomato season. And I was telling them that one of the things that I personally do is the tomatoes that you find at the store, they are not ready to eat. You have to bring it home, place it in your counter in the kitchen, and wait for a week, and then they're gonna be juicy, they're gonna be deep red, then they're gonna be ready to use. Because if we cook with tomatoes year round,
Okay.
not in the summer, the whole year we cook with tomatoes.
Okay. And do you have like any other favorite ingredients, for, I don't know, like in the fall or in the winter?
Yeah, like for example, in the fall we have the pumpkins, and we make tamales with pumpkins. We make empanadas with baked empanadas with pumpkin. We make atole, that is a hot drink with atole, and we add it to some dishes in the fall season. And then in the summer there is a lot of herbs. There is some, I don't know how to say it in English, that we have some, it's like spinach and things like a Swiss chard, but you don't find it here.
What's the name
That
in Spanish?
we have as they are not acelgas. My mind is went blind right now.
Oh, don't worry.
But there are some herbs that we use and we eat them. Like for example, porcelane. Like porcelane is something that we eat, and there are different types of herbs similar to porcelane that we add to our dishes.
Okay. So I want to ask you a question, because one of my favorite dish, which is not complicated at all, but that I have usually for breakfast, is chilaquiles with either salsa verde or salsa rojo. And is it a typical dish that you're doing in Mexico? Is it like across the country, or is it coming from a special state?
It's more popular in central Mexico, but people make it everywhere in the country. But it's more popular in central Mexico, and you can find it in every restaurant offering breakfast. By the way, that recipe didn't make it to the book, and people ask me, why did it make it?
Yeah.
It was not easy.
That was my next question. I say, why? Because I flipped through the pages. I'm like, where is the chilaquiles?
Yeah. People ask me, is there chilaquiles recipe? No, it was a hard choice. It's like letting one of your children stay outside of the picture. Yeah, but it was a hard choice. But chilaquiles is not in the recipe, no there.
No.
Chilaquiles, we make it when we take advantage. We have leftover tortillas from the previous day,
Yeah.
and one of the things that I like to do, when I wanna do chilaquiles in the next day, is I put them in the top of my kitchen or in the counter, or maybe in the oven. I just place the tortillas, separate them so they can get hard, and that way they will be easy to become crispy, and you are gonna use less oil when you fry them.
Ah, okay. And what kind of sauce do you use? The salsa you use on the green, like the verde or the rojo?
I prefer rojo.
Rojo. Okay.
Salsa roja. Yeah.
Okay. Salsa roja. Yes, you're right. Okay. So I would like to pick up your brain. I always ask, the guests that I have on the podcast to share a recipe or at least like a guidelines of a recipe with, for home cooks. And maybe maybe a traditional recipe, maybe from Veracruz or from Tamaulipas if you want. It's, I let you choose something that I could make.
Okay, from we make some in my hometown, and it's not in the book and it's not in the blog. We make some tacos that we call softies in
Softies.
English. It's,
Okay.
it's in English because they are soft. In Spanish, it's called blanditos.
Mm-hmm.
Blando means that is soft, and these are tortillas that you pass by hot oil, just enough time to make it soft and pliable, and then you stuff them with mashed potato. The mashed potato has to be just with salt. Your mashed potatoes, you put salt, and also you make another with refried beans and another ones with shredded beef. The beef usually we use flank steak that we cook with a piece of onion, garlic, and one bay leaf, and we cook the meat until it's very tender and you can easily shred it. So we fill these taquitos because they are like tacos. We fill them in with these three types of filling: refried beans, mashed potato, and shredded beef. And then we cover them with a lot of shredded lettuce, slices of tomato, slices of white onion, a lot of queso fresco crumbled, and then a drizzle of crema,
Okay.
Mexican cream,
Yeah.
and we serve it with pickled jalapenos and carrots on the side, and a hot salsa if people want it. So we call these blanditos, taco blanditos, and it's something that people go to eat outside in taco stands.
Okay.
It's usually not something that you will eat in your house, and usually the tortilla is red because the dough to make the tortillas has a little bit of ancho pepper.
Ancho pepper.
That's
Okay. In the tortilla. Okay.
yeah, to
In
give
the
it a
dough.
red color. But if you don't find it, you can use regular tortillas.
Okay.
And we call it blanditos. It's a very popular antojito. It's a very popular thing that people go out to eat in my hometown.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I would like to finish our discussion with a series of rapid fire questions. So let's start. So
Okay. I'm like, okay.
they are all very easy. Don't worry. I wanted to ask you: are you more tequila or mezcal?
Tequila.
Tequila. Now I have to ask you: do you drink it with sangrita? Or no?
No. Margaritas. Margaritas. Tequila sunrise. My favorite is tequila sunrise.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Now you talk about tortilla. Are you more corn tortilla or flour?
Corn tortilla.
So what are like 3 dishes that you could not live without eating or cooking?
Mole,
Yeah.
black beans,
Okay.
and salsa.
And salsa. Okay. What's your favorite guilty pleasure food?
Bistec a la mexicana.
Oh, okay.
It's the steak Mexican style.
Okay.
Mm.
So that's your guilty pleasure food. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Are you flan as a dessert? Are you flan or arroz con leche?
Flan.
Flan. Okay. I've done your arroz con leche, over the holidays, and they were fantastic. I love
Oh,
arroz con leche. Yes, so very good.
mhm.
What are like the 3 cookbooks that inspired you the most?
Wow, that's a hard one. I had so many because I collect them. El Cocinero Mexicano is a book from the 1800s, and Diana Kennedy's books, and the vintage books from Josefina Velasquez.
Okay. Thank you. If I go to your kitchen at the moment and I open the fridge or I open the cabinet, what are like the condiment, the spices or sauces that you have at hand?
Mexican oregano, garlic. I have the garlics in my pantry, and I have black pepper. So those are the ones that have to be there. And in the fridge, I always have eggs. I always have tomatoes, and I always have serrano peppers.
But what about like hot sauces, for instance?
Well, I have salsa that I just made with tomatoes and serrano. That's the most traditional salsa that we always have at home.
Okay.
That's the most traditional. I just made it 2 days ago. That's the most. And peppers, I have poblano peppers, jalapeno peppers, serrano peppers, manzano peppers, and habanero peppers in the vegetable drawer.
Okay.
Because
Wow.
I like spicy food.
Okay. Yes, I can tell. So my last question, if you could teleport yourself in any restaurant in the world for dinner tonight, where would you go?
Wow.
Like a
I will be
restaurant that either that you love.
I will be in Mexico. I will be in Mexico City.
Okay. But now you have to tell me which restaurant.
Maybe I will be in El Cardenal.
Okay.
It's a very popular Mexican restaurant it's in Mexico City, in downtown Mexico City.
Okay. So, Mely, thank you so much for spending time with us today on Flavors Unknown. That was really exciting to have you, on the show. I really love the book. And, if people that are listening, really, you need to, get, that book. And there's full of wonderful traditional Mexican recipes that you can make at home.
Thank you. Have a nice time talking to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Flavors Unknown podcast with blog and book author Mely Martinez. You can find the show notes of this episode and all the other episodes on the website flavorsunknown.com. And if you don't want to miss any of the future episodes, please subscribe to the podcast Flavors Unknown. If you have listened to this far, obviously you found value in this episode. Thank you for listening. And could you do me a favor? I would like you to take your phone now and think about one person who you know will enjoy this episode as well, and you can share it with. If you listen on Apple Podcasts or formerly iTunes, click on the purple circle with the 3 white dots, then click share and send it via a text message. If you listen on Spotify, click on the 3 white dots and scroll down until you find share and then send it as a text message. Thank you so much. My next guest will be Chef Rich Lando from Philadelphia, a pioneer of the modern plant-based dining experience, who opened his first restaurant in 1994, way before the trend focusing on veggies in the center of the plate. I see you in 2 weeks, and until then, remember that people who love to eat are always the best people.
You've just enjoyed another delicious episode of Flavors Unknown. Hungry for more? Hit subscribe. Tell us where you're listening from by leaving a review. And for social media and show notes, head to flavorsunknown.com.